Hi guys, it's Kirsty. Today I want to do a video about kind of celebrating the small achievements that you've made within a day, celebrating the small things and remembering to acknowledge them. I also want to talk a little bit about chasing happiness as well in this video, because I feel like there are some links between the two things. But firstly, I'd just like to ask you to please subscribe by clicking the subscribe button below if you do want to see all of the videos as they're released. Okay, so I think one big thing that drives some of the OCD themes is the fear of never being able to be happy. So I think a part of the whole fear of fear principle is the fear of never being able to live in peace and be happy and feel happiness. And I think a big part of the issue here is that we're all we're not all, but some of us sometimes might find ourselves chasing a feeling, whether that's, you know, trying to chase a feeling in our OCD or if you're suffering from suicidal thoughts related OCD or various other things. We all really want to be happy, which is, you know, that's human. All humans want to look for happiness. But of course, those of us, you know, who suffer from mental health difficulties might suffer even more by chasing happiness, because there's saying that they say that the gap between where you are and where you want to be is where the suffering takes place, whereas it's the acceptance of just being where you are that can alleviate that suffering. So I just wanted to kind of talk about sort of happiness and what that might look like, because in my own experience, as I've started to sort of progress through recovery in OCD, for me, happiness means something different to maybe what I used to think it meant. It's not like some kind of ecstatic feeling or excitement or something like that. For me, it's like a day that sort of I can sort of feel a bit happier on is a day where I've done the things that I wanted to do. And this is where I feel that the celebrating of small things in your day within the context of your life, only your life, and not what other people do and think. That's why I think that's important in terms of making you feel kind of a slight sense of accomplishment and maybe a kind of a subtle contentment rather than, you know, this big feeling of happiness. They say that, you know, it's chasing this feeling of this high of happiness and all of that is what maybe fuels some people with addictions and things. It's kind of the dopamine release and all of that, you know, technical things. I'm not going to go into that because I'm not a scientist. I only know a bit about it from my previous compulsive researching about anxiety and OCD and mental health difficulties in general. But really, if you're kind of doing small things that you can enjoy, you can take some satisfaction from that, and happiness doesn't have to look how you thought it looked. It might just be satisfaction. I just want to give a few examples. So for me, previously, I had been, when I was struggling with OCD, I would feel very obviously tired. Well, I say when I was in my worst struggling with OCD, I would feel very tired and drained, and getting through days would just be like, you know, just getting through a day at work would be an achievement. And I maybe didn't do as much kind of housework as my partner did at the time. And as I started to start feeling a little bit better, I found a huge amount of satisfaction out of just feeling like I was pulling my weight with my housework. And I think it's important to acknowledge these small steps in your recovery. Firstly, it's acknowledging that you are, you know, doing more and you're recovering, and you're seeing that. It's, you know, even if you're not feeling amazing when you're doing it, you're still doing it. So, you know, it's measurable in that way because you're still doing the things that you want to or need to be doing in your day. You're pulling your weight, and, you know, as human beings, we are sort of wired in a way that to want to work and to want to feel productive and things. It's quite normal. And it's that lack of feeling, you know, productive and able to do those things that makes us feel very low when we're struggling with OCD as well. So sort of found acknowledging things like that. And for me also, my partner is a really, really great cook. So there were times, you know, I can get a bit lazy sometimes with the cooking and the food shop, because he takes care of it, and I might do other things sort of around the house. I'm a keen gardener, for example, so I might be tending to the garden. But when I'm cooking dinner, even if it's something, you know, reasonably basic, for me, if I do it and do it sort of, it doesn't even have to be done that well. If I'm just cooking dinner, I think it's good. Like, I personally find myself feeling quite pleased with myself. You know, it's okay. Yeah, look good. Okay, so it's not my biggest strength is the cooking. But I'm doing it, and I think acknowledging that is really good. Another example I wanted to give also is this would sound very odd to somebody who didn't have OCD, but I used to avoid a lot of television and films if there was any sort of violence or anything that would kind of trigger me and mess with my thoughts afterwards, or even during it. I wouldn't want to watch it, because I'd be like, well, no, this is my chill time. I want to be relaxed. I'm not going to watch something that triggers me. But in doing that, I'd kind of be like, in conversations at work, sort of people are talking about, oh, amazing, Killing Eve and everything, and I'd feel a bit like, oh, I'm missing out. And you know, they get this escapism at night, which I, you know, so long for. Anyway, what I found as I've gone further through my recovery, doing certain exposures and practicing being okay with being triggered, and you know, just feeling the anxiety and leaving it be. I've started to challenge myself over the last year more with this types of things that I watch on television. And it sounds such a silly thing that you like, why would you celebrate what you watch on television? But for me, it's been quite a big deal. Being able to watch things that my partner has kind of been wanting to watch, and actually starting to like really enjoying things. So and it, to me, that's it's an achievement, and it's something that makes me feel quite happy now, because I'm like, oh, I actually want to sort of watch, you know, more interesting things, and it opens it up to me a little bit more in terms of the choices that I might choose to watch. So, for example, Killing Eve, I did find that triggering. The first episode I watched about a year ago or something. It's obviously about a serial killer who's a psychopath. Which is something that my OCD is sort of cling to, the idea of me being psychopath or sociopath or something. But I persisted with it. I actually watched it initially. I was triggered, and I did some exposures for harm, and then over time, I kind of became a bit desensitized to the level of violence in it. And it's sort of there's been a few other shows. One actually recently that I'm absolutely loving is The Handmaid's Tale. So this triggered me last year. That was because there's violence towards the women. Well, it's just general violence, but also it was kind of messed with my head a little bit, because it was kind of an alternative suggestion of how things could have gone. And anyway, it triggered me. I didn't want to watch it anymore. And then I kept on hearing various people saying it was really good, and got into it sort of recently, and I'm kind of hooked on it now. And that to me is it's just great. It's a huge achievement. And if you notice, if like me, maybe you had previously avoided music for a little bit because you found it triggering, if you're finding yourself listening to it more and more in the gym and craving listening to it, notice that and give yourself a pat on the back, because that means you're moving forwards. Something else I've started doing in the last few weeks, in the second lockdown in the UK, is baking. As I said, I'm less confident in the kitchen than my partner, but I thought I'll give it, baking a go. I've never been particularly great at it as an adult, because I'm not always the best at following strict instructions. I don't have the best attention span, but I kind of followed the instructions to a T. Baking is, after all, a science, and the result has been some very basic but delicious cakes. And I'm sorry, some people might not think that's a big deal, but I'm going to celebrate that. I've been bragging about it in my house. I've been sending photos of my cakes, even if they're from a packet, even if they're from a mix sort of packet. I'm still sending photos on WhatsApp to my friends and family. So these are just examples of, like, little ways of feeling satisfied with yourself, and not chasing big highs, and also acknowledging your achievements. And it's important to say again that these are achievements in the context of your life, from your perspective, not other people. So I don't care if your mates, baking wedding cakes or whatever. If you've baked and you haven't baked in years and you were still feeling tired that day because OCD, then that's a bloody good achievement, and that's better than the wedding cake that your friends just made, because we know how difficult it can be to just push on and do these things and have the headspace to do these things when we're having bad OCD days. Acknowledging these things and kind of giving yourself a little pat on the back for it in the moment, even if you're still feeling a bit crap that day, is good, because it helps, and it goes with the self-compassion aspect of recovery. But also there will be times when you might be doubting where you are in recovery, but actually when you look at it and think about the things that you're doing now compared to what you were doing 6 months ago, you'll see that it's huge. And I think it's really important from time to time to take a step back and look at that. This isn't just like the big achievements, like, getting married or having a baby or getting a new job, and or buying a house, or moving into a rented place from having lived with your parents, or moving in with your partner for the first time, or going traveling, or a big holiday or something like that. These are small everyday things, because it's the small everyday things that contribute to your daily mental health. And these are the things that are these are the things that are important to work on and to acknowledge, rather than seeking the great big highs and expecting to feel a certain way. And it's like it's just this, it's kind of this unattainable happiness that we can't force ourselves to feel a certain way. And the more we fear not having happiness and not getting to a certain place, and the more we have these grandiose expectations of ourselves, the harder we can end up making it for ourselves. So if we're acknowledging each day the small things, then we can and even if you don't feel ecstatically happy about it, a small sense of satisfaction. And even if you don't feel satisfaction at the time, just acknowledge it anyway, and just try and be aware of it, because over time you might start to feel a little bit pleased with yourself, and you might suddenly find yourself spontaneously actually feeling a bit excited, or thinking, oh, I'm having a really bloody great time today, or oh, I really enjoyed baking that cake, or I felt really chilled when I was folding that towel. It's these small things that other people might not think anything of, but I think for us, it's good for us to acknowledge it. But thank you ever so much for watching this video. I hope it's been helpful, and I will catch you later. Bye.